Hi, welcome to episode 114 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. I'm Laura, also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my hand-spun yarns. And we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. If you haven't come and joined us, please do. We are currently in the middle of our gift along, which is my annual craft along for November and December. To join, all you have to do is craft something for someone other than yourself. And I say craft because it can be knit, crochet, sew, weave, spin, any of those. And all you need to do is put a picture of the finished object in the finished objects thread. And then you will be eligible to win prizes. Everything has to be finished between November 1st and December 31st, and it has to be for someone other than yourself, though it does not have to be a holiday gift. It could be a birthday gift, it could be a just because gift. It just needs to be something for someone other than you. I will close the thread December 31st at midnight, or probably January 1st, and within a couple days I will do a prize drawing, and I said last week I was going to think on it and come back and let you know. For prizes, there will be one skein of my hand-spun yarn, and that will be winner's choice from anything in my shop. I am working on developing something a little bit new for the shop, and so I will be giving away one of those, but that will be a mystery for a few weeks longer while I work on that. But trust me, you'll like it, and it fits in the theme with the Corner of Knit and Tea. And then 2 winners will receive patterns of their choice up to $10 in value, and that will be from me. So we will have 4 winners, which I think should be great. The thread is humming along right now. Lots of gifts posted each day. And like I said, if you are working on anything that is a gift for someone else, please come join us. Something you're doing anyway, and a chance to win prizes. So, hello. Welcome back for those of you who are joining me again, and if this is your first time checking me out, welcome. I hope you enjoy. This is my podcast about tea and all the things that I am knitting and spinning. This week has been kind of crazy. There's been all kinds of stuff going on at work, and we are full swing into the last few weeks before the end of the year, which means there are plenty of yearly things that need to be done, and all the holiday parties, and I found out a few people are retiring at work, so we have a few separate retirement parties, and it just seems like these last few weeks of the year are going to be kind of crazy. Add to that, I need to clean the house and get our Christmas tree up, and then also it seems like my nephew may be sleeping in my craft room, which is not in any shape to receive visitors. So I believe one of the weekends, maybe not next weekend, but the weekend after, I'm going to need to spend the weekend in here cleaning up so that we can fit a temporary bed in here and he can sleep and not trip over all of my stuff. So that should be kind of busy around the house. The weather has gotten very cold, so an excuse to stay indoors is just fine with me. So I hope you've had a wonderful week. Let's jump in. Today I am drinking some tea that originally was sent to me by Tome Time Reading and Knitting, I think. It is a woman and her son, and they do a podcast about how what they are reading and what she is working on. And I have long since finished her samples and gone ahead and bought some boxes of my own. But this is Yogi Egyptian Licorice Tea. I really like licorice, and she sent me a couple samples of this one, and I really, really liked it. So I bought several boxes because Amazon, of course, makes you buy several boxes. And I am drinking that today in my Hoops and Yo-Yo mug that says Caffeinate Me and Hey Cutie, could I get a refill? I love Hoops and Yo-Yo, and Hallmark is here in Kansas City, so it is easy to pick up things with my favorite characters. So that is Egyptian Licorice Tea in my Hoops and Yo-Yo mug for today. And that is delicious. It is early in the morning on December 4th. Today is a spinning Sunday. Normally my spinning group in Kansas meets the last weekend of the month. But since the last weekend of November is traditionally Thanksgiving weekend, we have moved it to the first weekend of December. And we do not meet at the end of December because it's Christmas and New Year's. So today is our little Christmas party. We do a little white elephant gift exchange, and I have some fiber to spin. So it is early in the morning, but I am bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and up and ready to talk to you. So let's talk about the knits this week. I have two finishes, and these are things that you knew about and or saw before. The first is the sockhead hat for my niece. This is the sockhead hat by Kelly McClure, and it is knit in Yarn Geek fibers. It is their Super Geek base, which is Corriedale and nylon, and the colorway is Boxcar Gallery, and I just love it. As I said, it comes across on the monitor as mostly pink, and it is quite a bit of pink and red, but it also has all kinds of rainbow colors in there, as you can see. I need to wash this. I'm hoping it will soften up a little bit because it is Corriedale, but I hope that my niece is going to love a super slashy hat. I need to get this out to her because she will not be joining us for Christmas this year, but I thought she could use a nice squishy hat. So I will wash that. This is a hat that takes about 2/3 of a skein of sock yarn, and it's definitely for those skeins that are just too pretty to turn into socks. So that is the first finished object this week. The second finished object is a hat for my nephew, Evan, who will be joining us for Christmas. He is about to be 12, and I knit that wheat scarf in the bright blue peacock colorway from Louette, and I knit him a hat that sort of matches. What I did is I held two yarns doubled. I held the Louette Gems fingering in peacock so that it matches his scarf, and then I held it doubled with the Treasure Goddess Treasure Toes in Walk the Plank, the brown, and it created this really great kind of marled looking hat, and I think this will be a nice slightly less bright contrast to the scarf, but it will still match. The hat pattern is Ribberoni by Jane Tanner. I have knit it for charity hats quite a few times. My favorite part of it is, and I don't know how well it will show, is the decreases at the, the decreases at the top. You can see those 4 sections of ribbing kind of come together at a point and the others come in diagonally. It's a little hard to see on the screen, but it is just a really, really nice decrease into the crown, and I thought it would be the perfect simple hat for a 12-year-old. Who knows if it will actually be cold here when he visits, but we will see. So that is the second finished object this week. This was not even cast on last week. This was a super quick knit, but I wanted to get those out of the way so I could spend a little more time working on my WIPs, which I had talked about a goal of getting my December getting everything off the needles and ready to go. Also, I forgot to mention what I'm wearing today. This is the Snowbird pattern by Heidi Kermeyer, and this was my second hand-spun sweater. It is in Hello Yarn. It was a club colorway from long before I was in the club. It was a BFL and silk, and it was called Floating Down. It was very pastel colorways. It very much reminds me of Easter, so I often call it my Easter egg sweater. This was early spinning where I did not specifically, so I spun the yarn with the intention to knit the sweater, but I did not really sample and make sure I was going to match the gauge of the yarn called for and whatnot. So as it turned out, the sweater is like crazy big. It is huge on me, and I absolutely love it, and I actually wouldn't trade it for a thing because it is the perfect thing to wear on cold days. It is just like a big warm hug. So that is what I am wearing, and the sleeves are hideously long and huge, and I don't care because it feels good. Okay, let's talk about what else I am working on. I have several other works in progress. The first one I have made very little progress on, so I really shouldn't even show it to you, but I will. These are the milkweed socks. The pattern is Milkweed by Anne Podlesak. It was from the first issue of Knit Filament. These I started in October for what I thought would be the filament knit along. Have not finished, so missed the November cutoff for that, but plan to finish these in December. I am using Nerd Girl yarns in the Dingo base, which is a Tweedy base. I had never knit with a Tweedy yarn with Neps. It is called Met 'em on the River, and I am about 10 rows away from working on the heel. So I have made a little bit of progress. As soon as I finished the hats this week, the hats I finished on Wednesday, I threw the sock in my bag for lunch times, and out of the house knitting. So I need to do about almost 2 more pattern repeats, and then I will be ready to go ahead and do the heel and then move on to the foot of this one. It is early in the month, so I am not worried that I will finish these even with just lunchtime and some out of the house knitting. So I am super excited about having these done and ready to go for the end of the year. Like I said, my goal is pretty much just to clean off my needles for the end of the year so that I can start 2017 fresh. I have a bunch of ideas about 2017, some of which were slightly derailed by a business idea that I got, which I talked about. That's the thing that I'm talking about for a prize, and it will be coming to my shop shortly. So I got inspired to try something, and so I'm spending a little time with that. But I still do have knits that will be finished by the end of the year, and then I will determine what my course in 2017 will be. Of course, I will still be knitting. I just don't know exactly what yet. So that's the first project. The second project on the needles is the Sowerby Shawl by Annika Baranti, and I talked about this. This is the garter stitch shawl that I am going to be knitting in my handspun, and I have made some progress. I have a few more inches. Again, this one will not be super interesting for you to look at, but I am getting more and more into it. So as you can see, I have made some progress. I now probably have maybe 6 inches. This needs to be probably closer to 4 feet, so I still have a ways to go. But this is the project that I have been working on at home in the evenings, just because it eventually will get kind of unwieldy to take out with me. So I am just knitting away, and as you can see, whoops, I dropped something. I'll grab that. As you can see, I still have this enormous, this is 8 ounces of handspun, and I still have another one. I need to pretty much finish this one in this piece before I can move on to the next part of the pattern. So I'm just gonna keep knitting. And again, it's kind of hard to see, but it is actually a dark, dark burgundy. So that is what I am working on. Also, to get off my needles, like I said, this is going to be my home project. It is garter stitch. It is perfect for everything. I have been reading books while I have been knitting it because it requires no counting and no concentration. So I can definitely read during it. The final thing I've been working on, and hold on just a minute, it fell down, so I need to grab it, is, remember how I had talked about, excuse me, sip of tea? Remember I talked about how the final project that I wanted to work on, coming up towards the end of the year, was to pick up my neglected sock blanket. And this is my memory blanket. The pattern that I used as a jumping off point is by Georgie Nicholson, and it is for mitered squares. I had some questions about what I am doing with the mitered squares. I decided that I wanted to be able to use both my worsted weight scraps, like DK worsted weight, and my fingering weight. So what I have been doing is holding fingering weight doubled or worsted weight singled, and I've been doing it on a US 5. My squares are 40 inches, so 20 per side, and then I do 2 decreases at the center. I do a knit 2 together and an SSK, which creates my neat center. So this is my blanket. It is pretty big. It has been a while since I have showed it to you. It is now 10 by 10 squares, which is roughly 40 by 40 inches. It is a decent size for a lap blanket. It is, I had originally thought that I would make it a little bit bigger than this, but I have found, starting to get tired of working on it, and I kind of feel like it should be done. So I found out when I left off that I had started doing the 11th row of squares. So basically I've just been building on it, like an up and an over every single time. So I was at 10 by 10. Now I'm working on 11 by 11. And one of the things that coincided with my desire to pick it back up and work on it and potentially finish it by the end of the year is that Sally from the Wool Diaries podcast is starting something that she calls Advent Blanket Madness. And that is knit 1 square a day on your sock blanket, like a little advent calendar. And I do know that some people have gotten or have made advent calendars with sock minis to actually do this. I have not. I had just decided that it would be a nice impetus to knit a square a day. So, it was 100 squares. I'm going to do 11 by 11, which gets me up to 121. And I had already completed number 1. I had already completed square 101 when I picked the blanket back up. So I decided that I'm going to knit my 20 more squares for my Advent. And then, and I forgot to bring it today, I will bring it next week, I ordered a couple skeins of Heritage sock yarn in a dark, dark, dark purple. From the WIP when they were having a sale on fingering weight. And I am going to hold those doubled, and then I am going to knit an I-cord edge all the way around the blanket. And so my plan is to knit a square a day for Advent, which will get me up to, since I have 20 squares, that will get me up to December 20th. And then my plan is to do I-cord on one side per day for the 21st through the 24th. And that will give me a finished blanket for Christmas. And I have a million other, I have a million scraps still. Despite working through all of these, I still have plenty of sock yarn scraps. And I have plenty of ideas about other sock yarn blankets that I would like to do. So my plan is basically to finish this blanket in 2016 and start something new in 2017. And I have not exactly decided what the new will be yet. I have been looking at some of the scrap blankets, like the Ripple crochet blankets that people have been using with their ends and magic knots. I have been looking at the granny square blanket. I looked at a 10-stitch blanket, which I thought was really cool. So I am starting to think about what my next blanket will be. But this one I hope to finish this month. So this is the sock yarn blanket. It's huge. Obviously, I have to cover myself up to talk to you. And this is the row that I am working on. This square was 101. This was already done. I believe it is yarn ink in the Sweet Tarts colorway, but I put it on several months ago and I can't exactly remember. This square is Fido yarns in the Orchid colorway. This was what I knit a baby sweater out of earlier this year for a good friend of mine. This square came from a trade that I did with Anne of Woolly Wonka Fibers. It is Woolly Wonka Fibers Ceridwen, I think that's how it's pronounced, sock in the Posies colorway, and it is a great pink. I really, really like that one. I may have to order a full skein for something else. And then this one was yesterday's. It is Juliana's fiber, and it is, I got a neon rainbow mini pack, and this is the green one with the rainbows. So those are the first 3 squares. I have not done today's square yet, but that's December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And I will be working on this, and I'll bring it back next week to show you. I have ends to weave in. Usually what I do is I wait to weave in the ends until I put the next row of squares on, because I find it's easier to weave them in when it's all part of a bigger piece. So to be honest, like there are lots of ends, but it's only the ends for the most recent round of squares. Everything else is already wound in, and every couple squares I am trying to wind in ends now, since the final thing will just be to put the I-cord edging on. And like I said, I selected a really, really dark purple because I hoped that would sort of work with everything and tie it all together. So that is what I will be working on in the next couple weeks, and hopefully I will get all of these things off the needles so that I can start 2017 fresh. And like I said, I had some thoughts about 2017. One of the things that I thought about doing was, as you know, I play in the Harry Potter House Cup. And I had thought about doing an arithmancy owl, which means I had thought about proposing knitting somewhere between 4 and 6 pairs of socks in January, February, March. I still may decide to do that, but I can't tell because I have some other things I would like to do. I also still have a couple sweater quantities of yarn from Rhinebeck. I have several shawls that I would like to tackle. I have all the yarn for a Harry Potter house scarf that I have probably had for 2 years and haven't redone it. As you may recall, well, I guess you wouldn't because I did not knit it during the podcast. I originally knit a huge, gorgeous Ravenclaw scarf. And then I found out that I'm not really a Ravenclaw, and so I gave it to my friend Anna, who is a Ravenclaw, and I immediately bought yarn to make myself a Gryffindor house scarf, including a patch, which I have no idea where it is, but I had put a Ravenclaw patch on my original house scarf, so I bought a Gryffindor patch to go on my Gryffindor scarf, and all that yarn just sits untouched. So I have plenty of things to keep me occupied and no real need to go out and buy yarn for a while. So we shall see what will come in January. So that is all the knits. One more sip of tea and we'll cover spins pretty quickly and then I will let you go for today. Last week I showed you a braid that was blues and greens and I said it was tea themed. It was a Southern Cross Fiber organic merino braid in the colorway short and stout. And that is finished. It is still a little bit wet, but it is lots of fun. It is, like I said, blues and greens. It's got some real dark blues, some pale blues, and then a whole bunch of greens and a little bit of sort of a yellowy brown in a few places. It is still quite wet, so I don't have perfect measurements, but my guess is it's going to be somewhere right around 300 yards of sport weight yarn, fingering to sport, and it should be super squishy because it is organic merino. It would make wonderful socks, although it is not superwash, so you would have to be careful with those. It would also make really nice accessories, and it is just a really nice kind of bright, fun yarn. There will be photos on Instagram, and my guess is it will go up in the next couple days once it finishes drying and I can get finished measurements and photos. So that is what I spun last week. This was spin number 50 for the year. Remember, I'm aiming for 52. Some of the spins are technically more than 4 ounces. So I have already hit my 13 pounds, which is my general goal. And I might make 14 before the year's over. We'll just have to see. So this was spin 50, and I have 2 more, and 3 weeks till the end of the year, so not doing too badly there. Which brings me to this week's spin. It's still in the bag, and I don't think I'm going to take it out. This is Spun Right Round. It is a color play braid, and it is called Color Play 84. It is merino, which means not superwash. It's just 100% merino, and it is pinks and greens, and then there's like a little bit of blue in there, and there's some darks like charcoal and maybe a little purple. I don't think it's purple. I think it's charcoal. So this will be kind of a fun braid, and that's what I'm going to spin this week. This is destined for the shop as well, so if you are interested, keep an eye out. I think that will do it for today. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed the podcast. I hope that you have a wonderful crafty week ahead and that you are enjoying your winter or summer and heading into the holiday season. I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.